Today, we're kicking off our initial podcast with a true pioneer of Texas brewing. Few people have made a bigger impact on the craft beer movement here than Christine Celis. From relaunching an iconic brand to mentoring new breweries, she's someone I've admired for years. Christine, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Looking forward to it, to telling some stories.
Absolutely. Why don't you just kind of tell us about the history of Celis and just start off with how Celis even got started?
Well, it's a long story, but I won't take it too long of your time. But I was born and raised basically in a brewery. I remember so vividly, you're going to laugh with me. I remember that one day there were still some cows in the cow stable,
Okay.
and the following day they were gone. And all of a sudden my dad was putting in some old equipment to start a brewery. And I heard a lot him talking with mom about beer, but even as a child, there's moments that you don't forget. And so one of those moments were that, all of a sudden you see some cows and then all of a sudden you see a lot of equipment, and it was such a big deal. And so my dad revived the Belgian Witbier because he learned that from his neighbor, who was also the very last brewery that was making that beer style. And so when he passed away, my dad decided on, I'm going to continue that legacy. I'm going to continue that beer style. And so he revived that because it was gone for 7 years. And because his neighbor died, and so that beer style went away. And so after then 7 years, he revived that. And I remember being, the smells and just, seeing all the grains. And then my dad would go then to a place in Hoegaarden where they would mill the wheat. And it was like a big
Like a windmill?
Windmill, yes.
Yeah.
And so the everything was done manually. And so they had those big grinding stones, and that's how they would mill it. It was just so amazing. And so those are all those details that I remember so vividly. Yeah.
And so tell us about how you came from Belgium and brought the beer to the United States and why your dad chose Austin, Texas, and how you got here.
Sure. Yes. So when my dad still had the brewery in Belgium, he was already exporting to the United States. His main importer was located in Austin, Texas. And so my dad would come on a regular basis, and he felt every time more and more in love with Texas, with the United States, but in particularly to the West, because he liked the sunshine, he liked the rugged, the ruggedness of West, the West of the United States, basically. And so when he would come to Austin, every time he would take some water with him, back to Belgium to get analyzed. Then he also talked to so many bar owners. He got to see that there is actually not a craft brewery in Texas. Shiner is a whole different animal. But other than that, there was not a craft beer brewery, basically. And he said, the location is also very interesting. It's right there in the middle. On one side, you got the West Coast. The other side, you got the East Coast. So in case I want to ship all over, I'm really in the center of it. And he also said, well, and they speak slowly in Texas, so I can follow what they say because he never learned English in school. So he learned by communicating, and he wasn't shy of talking. So yeah.
I remember your dad wore something pretty funny or special. It seemed like every time I ever saw him, he was wearing this bolo tie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So is that something that he just picked up when he got to Texas, and that was his new attire?
That was it. He's like, I am sick and tired of dealing with those ties like they have in Europe. He's like, that one out. This one you just put over your shoulder, you zip it up, pretty much push it up. And that was his trademark. I mean, he didn't even wear ties anymore. It doesn't matter if it was for a wedding or it was for a funeral, whatever it was, or for a meetings. He would always wear that
the
bow
bolo.
tie. And he was so proud of it because this is who I am now. This is my new look.
It's a true Texan
It's
then,
true
right?
Texas, absolutely. So when he sold the brewery to AB InBev in '89, he decided. He asked me, "It's like, hey, do you want to live in Texas?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So after 2 seconds, I already made that commitment because when I would travel with my dad, I mean, I loved it here. You know, the weather, the music, just being free here, doing whatever you wanted, have those loud cars. I mean, all of it sounded so good. And so I literally fell in love with Texas, especially with Austin. And so my dad then bought the land in 1990, 91 construction of the first craft brewery in Texas. And then in 92, we were up and running. And, you know, in the beginning, people were like, oh, it's kind of interesting beer because it's all hazy, and they thought the beer was off. So
Took a lot of education.
We had to educate one person at a time. But it was a big deal because, you know, it was such a beautiful brewery. We would do so much live music. So we would bring them people to the brewery. We would do tours. And if you would tour the brewery for 10 times, you could do it yourself and then have some free beer with it at the same time. So why not? Yeah.
So that was Celis White, right? That was launched here in Austin, Texas.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, and then we had the Grand Cru Triple, and people thought it was the same strength as the white, and so they would drink then pints of a 8.5% alcohol, and so they were completely tripled. They couldn't even walk; they had to crawl out. Sometimes.
Lots of cabs back then being taken from the Celis Brewery.
Lots of that, yeah. And then they had it with raspberry. My dad literally that took him a year to develop that beer, and that was literally developed here in Austin. And then we had the first fruit beer. My dad never did fruit beer, never in Belgium. It was always here.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It was so good times.
I remember driving your dad around when I was working for Miller Brewing Company. I gave him the Texas tour and would take him to all the distributors and bars across Texas. That was part of my job. So that was a lot of fun with your dad.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
He was entertaining for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what happened to Celis and then how you ended up relaunching Celis yourself.
Well, I can give you the dirty version of the clean version, so I'll keep it civilized. So in '95 we couldn't follow the demand anymore, and then my dad made an agreement or partnership with Miller Brewing Company, and so they bought the majority of the ownership. Then in the year 2000, Miller bought the entire brewery, and then after 1 year, Miller shut the brewery down, unfortunately. So that was it hit my dad very, very hard. I mean, that brewery, he was so proud of. He bought those copper kettles over from Germany. So that was a really hard hit for him to digest, to absorb, and took him a long time to get over it. So then in 2011, unfortunately, my dad got sick, and then he passed away. So after he passed away, I really wanted to continue his legacy. And so then after 6 years, I found some people that wanted to work with me on building this brewery. So I wanted to do it the correct way because I had huge footsteps to follow. So I hired a Belgian brew engineer, and everything of this brewery was developed to make the Belgian style wheat beers, or the beers that we are known for. Yes.
Right.
Because it's not like, oh, you can go to a shop and, you know what, I want this mashed in and I want that Lauterton. That doesn't work that way. You know, it all depends how you want to brew and your temperatures and all of that. Do you need a cold line or don't you need one, and this and that? So anyway, so I did the right thing. I hired a brew engineer, and then the brewery was built. And so it was a super efficient brewery. With that, since it had another building on the outside, or a separate building, I should say. With that one, I brought over my dad's very old equipment when he started in Hoegaarden. And in that one, I put then the two old copper kettles from the late 1800s, the open
Nice.
mash tun, everything that how my dad started. The goal was I want to brew with his old equipment that
Okay.
people have never seen before, and then in the new facility. So, but unfortunately, sometimes you end up with wrong partners and things. There's different priorities, and so it didn't work out at all with that particular group. So we had to file for bankruptcy, Chapter 11. Then and then another group came in, and needless to say, I'm no longer there. I wasn't no longer needed since January 2024. And for a while, I was really upset about the craft beer industry. I wanted to get out. But then on the other hand, for me, it was like, why? I mean, I love what I do. I want to be in the craft beer industry. So, and that's when I called you, Lori and Brad, and then we had this wonderful discussion, and
We had a great
here I
lunch.
am.
We had a great lunch that day, and we're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's in your mind? What's changed the most in craft beer since you started?
So I think that there's multiple facets. There was a time when people wanted to discover craft beer. People wanted to learn about craft beer, and I think a lot of the breweries went just too far. It didn't become craft beer anymore. It became like, how far can I get away with? I mean, there's particular beer styles that was like juice with alcohol. That defines beer anymore. So I think that became too gimmicky, and some people lost interest in what the craft beer is, what it's all about. And then a lot of change too after we got through COVID. A lot of mindsets of people like, I don't, I want to. I don't want to drink alcohol anymore. I don't want to drink beer anymore. I want something that is a
little more healthy.
healthier, lighter, and all of that. And I think just people were just tired of beer.
Yeah, makes sense. What's the biggest challenge that you think independent brewers are facing today?
Well, right now, my opinion on that is also multiple issues. First of all, the economic impacts, the tariffs. I mean, there's just so much going on. It's hard to even create a business plan or give a forecast on, okay, what is my budget needs to be, because, prices change all the time. The aluminum,
Right.
there's so many things, raw materials. But also people have just changed. They want the convenience of, I want to have, I want to open a can and have an RTD in it. I want to have my liquor a little bit. I want to have a cocktail, so I just pop a can and it makes it easy. It's no carbs. Or people that are just on the health trend of just, I wanna drink non-alcoholic beer, and I think just all those different facets.
THC as
And
well.
THC, exactly, also, which I love THC. It's such a great drink. It's out there. It just helps people with, in my case, I'm a very difficult sleeper. And so with something like when I drink one, it helps me relax and sleep through the night. I don't want to resort to chemicals. So I like to have everything
Something
natural.
more natural.
Yeah. And I think there's just so much happening, so much news and noise in the media that people, that right now, I think a lot of breweries are facing that challenge, that there's people just are so diverse. People
So I was going to
just
say,
wanna
there's
fly.
so many choices now.
Just so many
It
choices,
makes
yeah.
it difficult
Yeah,
to focus on.
but I think the whole economic impact though is a big one right now. People
the
don't
biggest
know.
one
There's
they're
the future is a little bit unclear.
yeah.
Yep.
How do you see women shaping the future of beer?
I love it. I am so happy about that. Remember,
You were a rarity back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Women in
really
the beer business was a rarity, right?
But think about it, in the time of Mesopotamia, women were the only brewers. We're talking about 700,000 years before, Jesus Christ or whatever. Women were brewers, and and now having more women in the beer industry, I mean, it's great. I mean, remember too, we have much more taste buds. So in big corporations, they have always women as tasters because we have much more taste buds than males do. That's just the way we are born.
Absolutely.
And
you got much better of everything.
Yes. But so my dad, for example, he always would hire women as
tasters.
as that, but also as quality control, as brew engineers and all of that. Always, he was always surrounded with females because he knew what they are capable of. I mean, they really detected the slightest thing versus guys who was like, this is still good, and women would be like,
something
is off. Yeah, let's do this, do that, whatever. But now also it's a lot more accepted. Guys, I think they look up against and like, wow, women are now brewing. That is so cool. Of course, you always have those dudes that have, we're not going to talk about those, That's going to be a different conversation, and like you have the Pink Boot Society. So now, they do so much for women, for females.
Yeah.
You can learn, it's great. They have their monthly meetings.
Yes.
And so it's all about, improving and getting and innovation and just brainstorming with women, do collaborations with other female brewers.
Right.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
And I know, Christine, when we've worked in the past together, your daughter, Daytona, was also a brewer at the second brewery.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. She loved it. She had some really great ideas. She's really she can really detect even better than I do. I used to be a smoker, unfortunately, for so long. And I think it just messed a little bit with my
taste buds.
My taste buds. Yeah, that's
senses.
why you have a younger one. You're like, all right, you try it.
That must have been pretty cool. Three generations of brewing.
Three generations. That was really, I was so proud of, yes. And then also to be able to buy my name back. And then just to continue that was like, wow, look at what we've done,
Yes.
This without my dad, because my dad built breweries, but then doing this one and then having Daytona as the third generation was like, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Christine, since we had that lunch, the three of us back in January, February of last year, what excites you about what we're doing today? What excites you about Lone Star Beverage Brands and what we've accomplished over the last year and what we are doing here in the future?
So, why I love working for Lone Star Beverages is, well, first of all, we have such a great team. We all so like-minded. We want to strive for excellence, but then also approaching then companies that are maybe struggling, or some companies, some breweries that want to grow faster than they are capable of doing.
Right.
Helping breweries save money. So what we're doing now is taking that role on of making sure that beverage companies survive and grow. It's mind blowing. And a prime example was from a brewery not that long ago that, went through some hard times. And now with all our hard work and dedication to that brand, I mean, look at it, it's thriving, and which is fantastic. And so, just the goal is to expand this company and make it and really set it as a leader on excellence on behalf of beverage companies. To me, that's imperative. And it still fulfills my personal needs on being involved in the craft beer industry, but not only just craft beer, but any kind of, from seltzers to THC to functional drinks, all of that. I mean, it just gives you a lot of satisfaction. And I would like to bring in more companies and get this. I want actually, my goal is to have Lone Star Beverages to be known in any continent, really. If you want to, if you ever want to sell to United States, for example, companies from Europe, which I still have my connections, a lot of them. Well, why would you just go work with or just contact an importer? Just go through us first, and then we can work with you on getting the right distributors, for example, because it's really tough. But because of our 100+ years of experience, we have all
That's
those
a lot of
relationships. I know.
I need AI to take a few of these wrinkles away and open my eyes better. I don't know if we can do that or not, but
Yeah, I know. But so this is, I love it. And so I want to grow this business till I'm freaking 90 years old. How about that?
let's go.
Outstanding.
Christine, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Your legacy, it's felt throughout the industry. And we're so proud to have you with us and working
And on
with
the
us
team.
and on
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
LSBB team. So thank you, Christine.
Well, thank you, Lori.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Brad. Thank you for having
right.
me here.
Absolutely.